Free agency is in the books, so of course it's time to dive into some buy sells for Dynasty. I'm joined by one of the best Dynasty analysts in the entire industry to break down 5 guys and discuss whether you should be buying them or selling them right now. That is right, we are going to dive into some buy sells. I'm joined by the fantastic Marvin from the Fantasy Footballers. He's doing some amazing Dynasty and of course the DFS work over there. Marvin, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks again for inviting me. Had so much fun last time, so I'm looking forward to diving into some more Dynasty content here today.
No, absolutely. So always great to have you on. Now, I basically set Marvin some homework. I told him to come up with a couple of buys, a couple of sells, and we'll walk through it. Why complicate things? So as you can see on screen, up first, Marvin's first buy recommendation, Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, this time last year, the hype was out of control. A first round redraft pick in a lot of leagues and a slightly underwhelming season. What is it that has you wanting to buy him right now?
Yeah, I think that the price tag has just normalized a little bit. I was just doing a best ball draft the other day, and he's consistently in that third round, so no longer in that borderline first round pick. So that's obviously a big change from last season. But you think about just the totality of what he did in his rookie year and him coming in as a prospect. He's still a player that I fully believe in. As a prospect, he was someone that I graded fairly highly in my evaluation. Had him closer to that 99th percentile in my rookie model, and there's there's so many different reasons for that, right? It's the elite production profile, the first round draft capital, and some of the closest graded wide receivers that, in my evaluation, to his grade were Amari Cooper and Dez Bryant, and so he is as good of a prospect as you can have coming into the NFL. And then his rookie year happened and everyone was disappointed, which rightfully so. The expectations were sky high. Malik Neighbors outproduced him, and he only averaged around 9.7 half PPR points per game. That's good for wide receiver 38, which just isn't something we were all expecting out of an elite talent. But when you look below the surface level and you look at his usage, right? The 22% target share is not elite, but really good. The 43% air yard share, so the usage downfield was really elite. And then if you combine those two metrics, there's a metric called weighted opportunity rating, which he grades or comes in as the 9th highest among rookie wide receivers since 2013. Very similar to rookie seasons of Terry McLaurin, Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, and it was higher than even Brian Thomas Jr. So the usage was certainly there. It's just the run heavy offense that Arizona was in, right? They were the 10th lowest in pass rate over expected, leaned into James Conner, which led to some success there. But Marvin Harrison Jr., his rookie season reminds me so much of Drake London's, where his target share was super high, but it was a run heavy offense. And now where we see Drake London, the situation has changed. So to me, the reason why I want to buy into Harrison Jr. is because of the talent, the usage, and we know situations change. So buy into the talent now, and I'm sure things will turn around soon. Just because he's a good prospect. Situations change, and so I fully believe in him still.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with this one. I think it's a fantastic call. As you said, I still believe in my evaluation of him as an elite prospect. I still think he is that elite prospect. I think the interesting thing for me is that coming into the NFL as a rookie wide receiver, a lot of teams almost try to make life easy on you and try to ease you into an offense. You look at someone like DK Metcalf, where his rookie year he basically ran 3 routes and that was pretty much it. Arizona didn't do that with Marvin Harrison. They said, you are going to be a full route tree X. We are going to expect you to do every single thing that we want a veteran wide receiver to do. That takes time. It wasn't until the mid part of the year where we started to see him used on some of those more crossing routes. And I think that this is a guy that's probably going to be good for his long-term development. But in terms of raw production in his rookie year, yes, it did have an impact on him. And I still think that he's a fantastic prospect. I still think that, if you can get a discount on where he was going last year, which I fully expect you can get, given that rookie year, I'm all in on going out and acquiring him right now. We've got some values up on screen. As you can see, my values, keep trade cut, DLF, it's pretty aligned in where we're placing him. It is around that sort of early 2025 first. So I'm going to sort of slightly stick my rookie hat on Marvin and ask you a question here. How many rookies in a super flex tight end premium draft in the 2025 class would you take over Marvin Harrison right now?
Man, that's a great question. I'd say he would be my wide receiver one in this class fairly easily. So it's all about which running backs would you have ahead of him. I'd probably take Ashton Genty just because the running back premium. But after that, you could probably argue he's next in line. Uh, at least just for me, just knowing what kind of wide receiver was coming in. To your point, he didn't receive the easiest route tree as a rookie, and so I do think there's untapped potential there. I'm fine giving up a 103, maybe even 102 is I think might be a little generous, but 103, 104, absolutely, I'd trade that for Marvin Harrison Jr. because I do think his value is a lot higher than that, especially if he hits his peak.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm perhaps even a little bit more aggressive than yourself. I'd have him neck and neck with Genty, and I'd take him over any other player in this class. So I guess we'll call it what 101 and a half, if you want to call it something like that. Like that's where I am with him. As I said, all of my evaluation, I still stand by that, and I think that there's going to be it might take him this year, it might not come till next year, but I still believe that elite fantasy upside is coming out of there. Before we move on to the next guy, though, we are so close to 3,500 subscribers. Do us a solid, help us get there. Hit that subscribe button down below. Just as we're winding into rookie season, you will not regret it. The next guy, now this is one of mine. This is a guy that I feel like I've been banging the drum for the last 3 months. Rashee Rice. This guy, after 4 weeks of the season, was being valued as a top 4 dynasty wide receiver. He's now plummeted in value to a point where you're getting him in the mid to late 20s in some dynasty ranks. Marvin, are you on board with me that Rashee Rice is a screaming buy right now?
Yeah, I think the injury discount and that you would get from him makes him an interesting player to acquire. I think if he can make a full recovery, right? He's only 25 years old. Not an injury expert by any means, but I think he only tore his LCL and not the ACL, which was good news, I think, at that time. And so you look at the raw numbers of what he did in the second half of his rookie year, and then heading into it was only a 3 full game sample size, but a 34% target share, 37% area share, and then 33% targets per route run. Those are elite numbers that are up there with some of the best of the best. And I know we're going to talk about his value a little bit, but there's so many wide receivers around where he's ranked right now in ADP that I would much, I'd gladly trade those wide receivers to acquire Rice. Truthfully, there's obviously that risk baked in. But you wouldn't ever get this price if he wasn't injured, and that potential, to your point, the suspension, right, as well. But man, if he comes back healthy, I think the upside is tremendous. So he's someone at the right price, I'm definitely open to acquiring.
Yeah, I think I'm probably a little bit more aggressive than most dynasty managers in terms of how I attack that sort of injury suspension discount. And I think that even if you remove the injury from it, this looming suspension, we saw it last year, his value was quite depleted just because of potentially a 4, maybe, worst case scenario, 6 game suspension. And it's like, I'm playing Dynasty in quite a large window than just a 6 week sample. So if you're giving me a guy that's only going to miss that chance and I'm getting a discount on it, I'm very happy. I think that there's another level that this offense can go to. I think, they've got Xavier Worthy, who came in last year and kind of took a step forward. We've never really seen Hollywood Brown fully up and motoring with this offense. I think if you put both of those two in, they're both quick. Defense is going to be scared of that pace. It keeps that extra safety out of the box. We're going to force teams deep. It's just going to open up more space underneath for Rashee Rice. And if you've potentially got Travis Kelce moving on after this year, again, that frees up more space underneath. So I'm really excited. I think he's, one of the best run after the catch guys underneath weapons in the entire league. And I think he's got more to come. I think as we saw in his rookie year, he started to round out that route tree and he started to be, added more onto his plate. And I think that there is another level he can go. I've still got him as a top 10 dynasty wide receiver for me. And I appreciate that's quite considerably ahead of consensus. You hinted at some trades. I mean, I'm going to throw it out here. These are real life trades with real life things from the DLF Train Finder. Would you take Rashee Rice over any of these, Marvin? So we got Roma Dunze in a 26 second, the 103, and Lad McConkey straight up. Would you take any of those, or would you want Rashee Rice?
I think I'd take the 103 fairly comfortably, just because of again, like we dip into cross positional values here a little bit, but the running back that could be there, I think would be pretty valuable. But the other ones, I could definitely see myself taking Rice over. I wasn't the biggest McConkey fan. Now, he obviously had a great season, but I think I'd rather have Rice and the upside in that offense more than I would with McConkey in the Chargers offense. The Odunze one, the upside is intriguing there as well. So I think I'd lean Rice in that situation still, but I think that's a little closer than what I'd like, than what I'd expect, I should say.
Yeah. I think that, as I said, these are real life trades. I think there is a chance that the Rice manager in your league could be panicking. And I think as we start to see some more stuff over this offseason, I think there's a chance that he's going to be forgotten about. It's, as you said, it's that 3-game sample size. It's further and further away. And I think you may be able to get a discount on Rice still in those leagues. Your next pick, though, Marvin, Michael Mayer. Now, I feel like I am one of the lone people on Michael Mayer Island. So I'm delighted when you suggested him. And I'm very keen to hear your thoughts on why you like him as a buy candidate right now.
Well, I might just join you on that island because I'm right there with you. I loved Michael Mayer coming out of college as a prospect, and we just talked a little bit about betting on talent with Marvin Harrison Jr. I think the talent is certainly there. When you look at what he did in college coming in, one of the most productive college tight ends from a receiving standpoint in recent history. He had the 6th highest career receiving yards per team pass attempt among prospects drafted since 2013, the 3rd highest schedule adjusted production score in my model. So he's a really good prospect. And I was just very excited when he got 2nd round capital. Then, of course, the rookie year happened and he struggled with that 9% target share. 14% targets per route run, which isn't that great. And then, of course, we know what happened with the Raiders drafting a generational prospect in Brock Bowers. So, yes, I'll fully admit if he remains with the Raiders, he likely will not be the best buy candidate. He will unlikely break out because I just don't see that happening. Even if they run more 2 tight end sets, it's Bowers in that offense. And so, but the interesting thing is, at his current dynasty cost, with some of the rumors that he might get traded, I think he's someone you want to acquire now. He's being valued closer to the mid 20s as a tight end 25 right now. He's valued around guys like Amari Cooper, Kendre Miller, Keenan Allen, keep trade cut. Now I know that's not the necessarily a perfect evaluation, but it shows that he's on the lower end of that. And when you think about what the upside could be if he gets traded as the tight end 1, I think he has the talent and the profile to be a tight end 1 in this league. He just is in a really tough situation. So I don't think you have to spend much to get him. If you're in a tight end premium league, he's one of my favorite tight ends to acquire now because no one's really thinking of him. But once he gets traded, and if he gets traded, he'll be skyrocketing dynasty ADP in pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that for me, the offseason is all about calculated risks. And I think that you buy Michael Mayer, worst case scenario, he doesn't get traded. He sits where he is behind Brock Bowers, and he's worth the exact same that you've paid for him in over the next 12 months. There's no real risk. I can't see any world where his value plummets because it's not that high to begin with. But there is a scenario where, as you said, he gets traded, he ends up in a new situation. I don't want to speak this into ether, but there's a Brock Bowers injury or something like that happens where his value could skyrocket. And, outside of probably the top 5-6 guys in the tight end ranks, it's a very kind of flat tier outside of that. And there are few players that I would say have the talent to get into that top 6 more than Michael Mayer. As you said, great prospect, great potential. And I think last year, obviously, he left the Raiders for a little stretch for some personal things and stuff like that. And maybe this is, still just giving that opportunity to, he's not fully put it together on the field, and there will be an opportunity for him to do that. Whether that's with the Raiders, whether that's somewhere else, I'm a Jets fan. I'm absolutely desperate for the Jets to go out and trade for him right now. But I mean, in terms of cost, as you can see here, I'm significantly higher than Keep Trade Cut DLF in terms of my valuation. Are you happy paying like a mid third, or even potentially a late third for him in leagues right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Considering where he was valued coming in and where he is now, to your point, the value and the cost is so low, you're not gonna be wondering if you should have kept a late 2025 third in a year from now, because a lot of those prospects will never ever hit because of where they're taken in the actual NFL draft. If you can flip that for someone who has tight end one potential, I'll do that any day. And then again, if he doesn't hit, you just lost the late third, mid third. That's totally fine. But the upside and the return on that is significantly higher.
Yeah, absolutely. How many times do you look at a late third and think, oh, we're talking what, a 10% hit rate at that sort of point in
Yeah.
rookie drafts? Like, I think there's a greater than 10% chance that Michael Mayer finds some fantasy relevancy, and hopefully we see a trade as we get close to the NFL draft. Before we move on to some sell candidates, though, remember, it is rookie season. Our rookie guide dropped just a few days ago. You can hit the join button down below. Come and become a member of the Sanctuary. Silver and gold tier members get a free rookie guide, all the film analysis, every fantasy relevant player you will need, plus my rookie model, rankings, and everything you could ever need to crush your rookie drafts. So time to get negative now. Terry McLaurin, sell, Marvin. You're going to upset some people with this one. Why should we be selling Terry McLaurin?
Yeah, I don't think it's about the fact that he can't produce another top 20 season ever again in his career. I think that's definitely within the realm of outcomes. But when you think about him turning 30 years old this year, we typically see elite wide receivers taper off around 30 to 32 years old. Now they can continue to produce into that, but it's fairly rare. And so while I do think he has another year or two of production in him, I think his dynasty value is unlikely to improve from here on out. But what people will remember is the productive year he had here in 2024, and that allows you then to trade him at a decent value. Another reason to fade him, and you highlighted here, is the potential for regression. And you think about him being wide receiver 15 in points per game. My usage model, so you look at expected points, he was wide receiver 29. So that means if his efficiency regresses, and a lot of that has to do with his touchdowns, his usage was more of that of a flex wide receiver. Averaged almost 3 fantasy points over expected. Only had a 23% target share, 21% targets per route run, which aren't great numbers. That would have him at wide receiver 41 in targets per route run, behind Quentin Johnston and Amari Cooper. So not the greatest numbers for him. And he did average the 40% air share, which is great, right? Because he's getting those high value targets. But then once you factor in the addition of Debo and where his volume was last year, I just don't see it improving that much more to offset those touchdowns likely coming down. And so at a risk for a regression, a less productive 2025 season, he's someone who I'm willing to trade now before that dynasty value truly craters.
Yeah, he feels like the perfect dynasty sell, doesn't he? In terms of, as you said, that kind of fairy tale season. Jaden Daniels came in as a rookie, outperformed what anybody would have expected. He had an incredibly efficient year, as you can see on the screen, over double his career average in terms of touchdown rate. And let's not forget, he's kind of sneaky old as well. We're talking about AJ Brown being a sell based on his age. AJ Brown's 2 years younger than Terry McLaurin. And I think that because of that fantastic season last year and people expecting Jaden Daniels to take another step forward, you can almost, those traditional archetypes of, right, this guy's a sell because of the efficiency, this guy's a sell because of his age, they're all sort of being thrown out the window a bit with Terry McLaurin at the moment. I don't think he's being talked about as that consensus sell. which makes him the perfect opportunity to get out now. Because once people start to clock onto these things, I think his value is going to start to decrease. So, yeah, it does feel like a perfect sell high window. In terms of valuation, as you can see here, some real life trade offers I've thrown in here. Is this the kind of thing you'd be looking for right now? So we've got the 106, James Cook, or potentially pivot to DJ Moore in a 26-second?
Oh man, I'd take all of these over Terry McLaurin right now, fairly easily. I think the 106, you'll get a good prospect that probably has similar upside. James Cook, I think, is one of the more undervalued dynasty running backs right now. I think DJ Moore, his upside is very similar to Terry McLaurin, but he's younger. So I'd take all of these guys in a heartbeat. But I know that'll vary for every person. But I do think, man, if you can get any form of first round pick, I'd take it for Terry McLaurin right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest DJ Moore fan, but that getting DJ Moore, to me, they're basically the same player. Like, you can throw them in the bucket. I think they're going to produce that sort of wide receiver 2 type numbers. They're going to be a little bit up and down week to week. As you said, DJ Moore's a bit younger, and I'm getting a second round pick on top of that. That's an absolute home run pick for me. So yeah, I love some of the trades you can get for Terry McLaurin. I think, you know, he's not one you just want to stick up on his trade block because, or, you know, go and update your trade bait or whatever because people clock onto it. I think you need to be smart. I think you need to be proactive, but I do think you need to be having some conversations about Terry McLaurin right now. Now, the final guy you want to talk about, Marvin, I'm intrigued to hear where you're going with this. Tyrone Tracy, a bit of a darling to some people, broke out sort of halfway through the year. As you can see, 7 out of 11 weeks, over 14 PPR points. Why are we selling Tyrone Tracy?
You know, I think it's just, to me, that I hate to invest in a day 3 running back because I've been burned so many times, and for good reason, because teams invest in day 3 running backs all the time, only to pivot in a different direction shortly after, right? So while I do think he was a solid producer, he was fairly efficient. We saw some explosive games from him. We've seen players with similar points per game and similar situations in the past. You think about some of the day 3 running backs that we saw produce as rookies: Tyler Algier, Naheem Hines, Michael Carter, Dameon Pierce. You think of those names, where are they now? They've all significantly lost value over time as day 3 guys. And they were just eventually replaced by higher capital players. And so the Giants are in an interesting situation. While they have other needs, obviously, they need to address as well. They do own 3 day 2 picks. And so it depends on how the board falls for them. But I would not be shocked if they selected someone like Travion Henderson or Caleb Johnson, who Caleb Johnson could be there in the 3rd round. And I think he'd be a great complement to Tyrone Tracy. And while I do think Tracy will still be involved because of his receiving skill set, he was solid for them last year, I would not be shocked if they added someone who might be a little more complete, who might be able to that could be the future for that franchise at the running back position for the next 3-4 years, and that'll only hurt Tracy's value. Obviously, if you can't get much more than a 3rd round pick for him, it might be just best to hold on. But I do worry that the Giants will draft someone in a deep and a very talented running back class that would eventually hurt Tracy's value.
Yeah, I think this is a tough one for me because I quite like Tracy the player. I think that I hear everything you're saying around he's easily replaceable. You know, the regime have got nothing kind of invested in him, and I just sort of look at it and I'm like, they've almost struck gold with the pick last year. You know, if this was a new regime coming in, I'd feel very differently. But I kind of like, they've got so many holes. They are fighting for their jobs. I struggle to see a world where they kind of move on from let's say, found money in Tyrone Tracy. But then I've also got my hat where I'm saying always sell running backs. You know, there's only 7 or 8 running backs that truly matter. If you can get a good 2nd round pick for him, that's a move you should always be looking to make. It's found money because you probably drafted him in the late 3rd, 4th round as a rookie. If you can sell him for an early 2nd, happy days. So yeah, maybe I need to go away and have a think a bit more about Tyrone Tracy. I've sort of looked at some of the numbers. You're starting to convince me, Marvin. But from a cost perspective, as you can see on screen, everyone seems to say early second. Are you snatching their hands off if that's the kind of pick that you're getting back?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Just again to your point that you're probably flipping him after acquiring him for quite a bit less, and so the early 2025 second is probably the minimum I would look for. Mid second, you could probably argue you might not find a running back that is in a better situation, or from a as a prospect, you might find someone a little better there. But again, the situation matters so much. If he's survived free agency, I believe, I don't think they've added really anyone of relevance
They've
right now.
still got Singletary under contract because they
Right.
guaranteed money into year 2 with his contract last year. So I'd be shocked to see them spend money on running back when they're already paying
Mhm.
Singletary.
Exactly. So that's where I think the draft will be interesting, right? But I do think the early 2025 second is where I'd value him right now. If you can get that, I'm fine with it. Anything above that would be unheard of. But if you can, like, combine him to get a first, I'd gladly take that.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And there's 5 players, whistle stop tour. I love all your picks, Marvin. I love the conversation. Remind everybody who is watching and listening, if they don't know, if they're not following you already, where can they find you and where can they find your work?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter or X at ff_Marvin E. I'm also on Blue Sky at I need to still learn my handle. It's Marvin JE. So I'm on both those platforms trying to post consistently. A little bit of a break here in the off season, but I've been cranking out some rookie content. I have an article series coming out soon on Dynasty Life Cycle. So just follow me there, and I'm sure most of my content will find its way on those sites.
Amazing. As I said at the top, Marvin's one of the best and brightest in the industry. If you're not consuming his work, you're missing out because, yeah, he's absolutely fantastic. And we're big fans of his work here in the Sanctuary. If you haven't hit the subscribe, go and do that now. We will be rolling out some rookie previews very soon. Every single fantasy relevant player you need to know for your rookie drafts. We will have an individual video. So hit that subscribe because you will not want to miss them.